Hello, people. So, Clara wanted to do her ethnographic uh, interview of me, and I suggested that we do it. Uh, what do they call it? In situ, uh, uh, through a stream, and we were supposed to do it on um, Friday, but she had storm problems. So it was prevented by an act of God. Not Clara the Nazi, right? Well, she's not a Nazi. She's more like a member of the Hitler Youth. Um, as far as I can tell. Um, she's studying sociology, and I don't know how much I don't know how much she's been indoctrinated. I don't know how much she is an advocate for evil. I haven't actually spoken to her really, and most of these people seem like perfectly nice people. But yeah, well, we'll find out. She she's thinking of Claire. Oh no, not Claire Caw. Yeah, Claire Caw is a whole different type of evil. Um, no, Clara is just somebody who's probably been hoodwinked by the woke. I mean, that's likely the case. We'll find out. By the way, CW, I'm still waiting for you to ask Bart Urban that question because I really don't. I There must be some textual critic who has looked into that. It makes zero sense for me. Yeah, I don't know which program she's in. I don't actually know which program. So, well, I guess we'll find out. Clara, the sociologist, she doesn't have a last name. Well, I think she probably doesn't want to get doxxed, which is kind of weird. No, there has not been a destructing. Such a chutzpah to do a live stream when the Baltimore Ravens are playing Sunday night football. You can watch football and listen to a stream at the same time. I mean, come on. So in case anybody is interested in knowing what I've been bothering CW about. Oh, here we are.
Hey, JP.
Clara, there you are.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I am good. Everything okay with the weather and stuff out where you are?
Yes. I'm so sorry about Friday. We had our power totally shut off for like more than 12 hours. It was like not quite 24 hours, but
How dare you not plan for a tornado? I mean, I don't understand.
yeah, I think it was a hurricane. What is it, Helena?
Hurricane, tornado. I live in Los Angeles. We don't have weather.
We're not supposed to have hurricanes up here.
I don't know where you are, but yeah.
I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Dayton these days.
Aha. Dayton, Ohio.
Yes,
Ah,
yes.
okay. I don't know much about Ohio. Um, People were wondering, which school are you doing? I mean, are you doing your PhD or a master's degree?
I'm doing my PhD at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana.
Oh,
So
Notre Dame. Ooh la
that's
la.
it. I should have brought. I had this funny hat I was thinking about wearing. That has our mascot, and you know it lights up. So
Yeah, but now you're wearing a Grim Grizz hat, which marks you as part of the tribe. So yeah, that's important.
I mean, yeah. Thank you for noticing, Jacob.
I try to be a noticing person. You wanted to start with whatever formal institutional review stuff you have to do. So
Yes, yes. Let me go ahead and ask you some. You know, I appreciate you agreeing to do this interview, and I guess on your stream as well. So let's get started with the consent form. Um, so this is just so you know, I'm going to just give you a brief overview. If you'd like a hard copy, I can certainly arrange that.
it's okay.
Most people don't want a hard copy. I can't imagine why.
Honestly, as somebody who went to law school, you're better off not actually reading the contracts you sign.
Oh, okay, because it gives you some kind of
If you are going to sign it anyway, if it's a contract
Mhm.
of adhesion, which you have no chance of not signing, like reading it only makes the situation worse.
Okay.
And like my contracts professor said, you don't write a contract because it's enforceable. You write a contract because the person who reads it thinks it's enforceable.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, this isn't about being enforced or not enforced. This is really for your benefit.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that this is for research. This is for my dissertation,
I
and
am a guinea pig. I am your guinea pig.
well, actually, you can leave at any time, so it's different from being a guinea pig. It's really informed because you're choosing to stream,
Yes.
and that's part of the research design is that you can have a recording for your own benefit, and put it up for the world to see. But that's all you and your choice to stop at any time or whatever. Um, and if you'd like to be contacted in the future for research, that's on here. Really, what I'm doing, I'm collecting 50 interviews. You're one of them. Um, we're just having a conversation about your life history and so forth about the TLC, about your technology use, all these things. Using that in this paper I'm writing about this little corner of the internet. Um, there's a risk that you might feel uncomfortable, but the biggest thing is that this is voluntary, and I'll say it one more time. You can leave at any time without penalty, and I will need your Venmo or PayPal in the future so that you can be paid the $30 from the grant.
You can give it to Fountain of Comfort.
Fountain of Comfort. Okay.
Yes.
And that's
That's my charity, which is linked in the description below.
excellent. Excellent. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Well, what is the actual like research topic?
The topic is how people form communities and change identities. So it's two topics really, and how those two are interlinked. Is that
Okay.
kind of what you're asking? So I'm looking at this
Yeah.
little corner of the internet. Is a place where people are experiencing change in themselves over time, and then also we see this group and collective change. And as you know, I think I'm looking at the in-person component as well.
So, how did you define TLC?
So yeah, I'm catching myself here. This little corner versus like the Peterson Sphere. You mean?
Yes.
The truth is,
I am not TLC. I'm Peterson Sphere. So
yes, I'm so sorry. I did misspeak there.
it's quite all right.
Yeah. No. I'm just thinking about this as a flotilla of channels or a hierarchy or possibly a bazaar. I've heard, just folks who are connected to each other and or possibly adjacent to each other and not connected to each other, right?
Mhm.
and an internet space. And I would love really to get that from you, because I don't think I have the answer there.
Okay. Well, I'm done asking questions. You can ask your questions.
Okay, well, I kind of have the thing now, Jacob, and I got to start by asking you, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
My favorite flavor of ice cream is dark chocolate raspberry.
Okay. Who produces the kind that you like the most?
Oh, I don't even know. I just go to Ralph's and buy it if it's there. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
I like dark chocolate. I like things that are a little bit bitter. Yeah. So.
yeah. Okay. Well, Jacob, I'm trying to get to know you a little bit here, and I guess I want to start with where you are now, because there's just a few questions about, like, you're studying for your MSW. Did I read that somewhere?
Yes, I am working on my Master's of Social Work at Walden University,
Mm-hmm.
and I am working on a substance abuse counselor certificate at Los Angeles Pierce College.
Okay. Why substance abuse? Why is that important to you?
So when I started, I said I want to be Chad the alcoholic when I grow up.
Did you really?
That's it. It's a little joke I have. Uh, so I mean, mental health. It's funny. I actually wanted to be a psychiatrist when I was a little kid.
Okay.
Psychology has always been very interesting to me. I especially so in fall of 2022, I started my substance abuse certificate,
Mm-hmm.
and my professors told me you're gonna end up having to get your master's degree for a license. So I stopped the substance abuse certificate to do the master's degree, and I just found the substance abuse classes to be so much more practical, useful, and like actually educational
Mm-hmm.
that I ended up going back, and so I'm doing both at the same time.
Okay.
But I mean, I generally just philosophically, I don't believe that you can you can isolate dysfunctions that much. And one of the things that I found out over the past few years is, well, I started substance abuse because I thought it was accessible, and I thought it was something I could go into when I first looked into it. But I quickly found out that people who have what's called a dual diagnosis, which is both a classic mental illness like schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, right? OCD. Those are the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
And a substance abuse, which is sometimes referred to as a behavioral disorder.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places will not treat someone with a dual diagnosis. They will say, "Oh, you have to go get the other diagnosis taken care of and be in remission before we'll take you." Which means there's a lot of people who simply get completely like told you have no, like, there's nothing we can do for you. And I just thought that's a great opportunity. I would love to help people with who are dual diagnosis. And so, I mean, my first job out of college in 1998 was working at a homeless shelter.
Sure.
And living in Los Angeles, the homeless problem is just huge here.
Okay.
And there, I would estimate some 70% of chronic street homeless have a dual diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you see your work then as sort of outreach to this this unhoused community as well, or?
What do you mean in-house community?
Sorry, unhoused folks who don't have
Unhoused.
permanent housing.
So I mean, I don't actually do any of that work myself. In my internships and stuff, I have been working. I worked at Catholic Charities. I worked at this other place that's a normal, nonprofit here in Los Angeles, but ultimately the hope for Fountain of Comfort, which is my 501c3, which I started with other people in the Jordan Peterson Sphere,
Okay.
is the hope is that it will be a different model. So while we stream all the Fountain of Comfort stuff onto my channel, because my channel is actually pretty big, I do have a separate Fountain of Comfort channel, which things for Fountain of Comfort go on. And I mean, you can see all of that, but part of my hope is, and part of my criticism, especially of TLC, has been, I think, I mean, there's a lot of people in this little corner. I personally got involved with Jordan Peterson because of my personal mental health. And we have a lot of people who have mental health issues. And I just, I think we're not being practical enough in addressing the issues of our own community. And yeah, so that's been a major issue for me in starting Fountain of Comfort. Is the hope for Fountain of Comfort is that we'll actually be helping people in this community.
Say more. So who do you mean when you say in this community?
Well, anybody who watches my channel is somebody I consider as part of my community. I mean, so if you I don't know how much you've been on my Discord server. My Discord server, very much, I try to have a community. We here in Los Angeles have pretty much set up a small community of people who are involved. I have traveled all over the country meeting with people in real life.
I've heard.
Yeah. So I I mean, ultimately, there are some people I am more friends with and less friends with, etc. But yeah, how do I mean, generally my 90% of the time, I would say if somebody wants to be my friend, I want to be their friend.
Yeah. Okay, so helping the community, the people who are on your Discord server and your community, folks you've met up with, helping them to do what is it exactly?
To live, to thrive, metanoia, living. So did you see the rules channel on my Discord?
I saw that it existed. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that some of the things that so here, I'll just read what I think are three of the most important things about the type of community that I'm trying to create. We are all here because we see a lot of not only incompetence, but downright corruption. It is eating away at our society. People are justifiably distrustful. I hope it is perfectly clear that I am just as much worried about corrupt and negligent administration of power as everyone else here. But the solution is not to stop trying to find trustworthy people. It is to secure our distributed cognition, to earn each other's trust and extend that trust in competent ways. An individual human being is not a viable living organism. We are not atomized individuals. We think in community with others. Others keep us sane. We distribute our cognition to other people we trust. The whole purpose of this server is to extend our trust to competent and honest people. And possibly the weirdest part of it, this server is a strict hierarchy. The goal is to elevate the voices of capable people over the foolish. The standard, for better or worse, is how closely aligned you are with Jacob. I am Jacob, and this is Jacob's ladder.
So it's a hierarchy really directed towards you at the top.
Well, that's the only, I mean, my channel's name is just my last name. And Jacob's Ladder is, I mean, my Discord's name is Jacob's Ladder. I am not actually at the top. If you look at the hierarchy, I'm actually somewhere in the middle. There are people higher on the hierarchy. And there are people who I have placed at the top of the hierarchy, like Yosef and Chazi. But that's because I think they are worthy of having their voices elevated.
Do you want to talk about why that is?
So this is something I have counseled, particularly my nephews, but everyone, and is people are not happy when they're at the top of the hierarchy. People are happy when they're in the correct place in their hierarchy, right? I become incredibly annoyed, frustrated, and even angry when someone is placed above me in the hierarchy who is undeserving or incompetent. I become very relieved when someone is above me in the hierarchy who is more competent, more capable. That's like, oh, hey, there's somebody actually taking on the responsibility of like whatever needs to be done. Which, I mean, that's what I hope for. Someone competent. That's I mean, that's the biggest problem I have is I think our society has become degraded by corruption.
Since that's the biggest problem you have, I want to dig into that. Our society has become degraded. Are you talking about political corruption? Are you talking about religious life? Are you talking about family life?
Well, I think all of the above. So politics is downstream from culture. Culture is downstream from religion. I think our religious hierarchies have been completely destroyed. And then I think because of that, academia, I mean, you look at the universities. I mean, you look at what happened at Harvard and MIT, and like, yeah, our educational system has completely become worthless. And yeah, so the rest of society is also falling apart.
When you're talking about Harvard, are you talking about presidents resigning? Are you talking about Black Lives Matter? What are you talking about?
The president's resigning was what I was thinking of most clearly. I mean, you had a plagiarist, someone who obviously was not very smart, was president of Harvard. Like, that's sad.
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying there. That it's hard to see these, what's going on in academia right now. And I hear you. So I think I know where you're going with that. And I just wanted to ask you, like, sort of, because we're talking about religion, I wanted to dig into your background because I was watching, these really great videos of you, seeing that I didn't realize that you had this experience as a rabbi. Tell me about, so I guess I want to get that whole strain. We can certainly come back to this, but I want to get the whole strain. So I don't know if you want to start at the beginning or if you want to start with where you are now.
So to explain, I was born in Iran. Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
in not a particularly religious family. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in Iran, your religion is everything. So as a child, I went to a segregated Jewish school because
Gender segregated?
what?
You said segregated. Did
Yeah,
you mean by sex?
both by sex and by religion.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in Iran, everything is segregated. All education is segregated by sex, but all religion is all. I mean, all education is also segregated by religion. So we had Muslim teachers and a Muslim principal, and weekly attempts to convert us to Islam, um, all kinds of things that, I mean, you could not imagine in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly because, I mean, this was 1983, 84, only a few years after the revolution in 79. I was born in 77. So the in Iran, I mean, it's Iran. um, and we came to the United States. I actually wrote an article about this on my Substack, which, you know, um, so for me coming to the United States, there was a realization that the United States is so much better than, basically, I would call it, the shithole that I came from. And for me, and I do have PTSD from what happened. It was during a war. All kinds of things happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I was almost obsessively um, focused on what made the United States, in comparison, so much better. Like, I always envied the naivete of Americans. I jokingly say you should not be allowed to be born a citizen of the United States. You should have to leave and apply to get in, because you don't appreciate it until you've lived somewhere else. Um,
Sure.
and so um, part of that for me was exploring my own identity. I mean, I remember as a child when I first came to the United States. Have you seen the Neil Diamond movie, The Jazz Singer?
No.
So there is a kind of the highlight of that movie. He sings this song, "They're Coming to America,"
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And for me, being able to see a Jew on television proudly being welcomed into America, like that for me was like, it was it was a moment of personal pride and identification with the United States as a place where I was accepted as a Jew.
How old were you when you saw that movie and sort of had that experience?
Like eight,
Okay, so
7 or 8.
stuck
Yeah.
in your mind there.
Oh yeah. I mean, that song, I would play it now if YouTube wouldn't give us a copyright strike.
Sing
Like,
us a couple bars, Jacob. Come on.
my voice is way too horrible for that. But uh, honestly, like, the so for me, that was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew up, I didn't really understand my parents' relationship with religion and religiosity. I identified as a Jew, and I became more and more involved with Judaism when I went into college, um, both in high school, but like especially once I started college. I took Hebrew classes, stuff like that.
Growing
Yeah.
up, though, did you practice religion in your home in any ways?
So my family is what's usually referred to as traditional,
Mm.
meaning high holidays, that type of stuff. Um, we didn't like we um not really very religiously involved, not very religiously educated,
Did you have a
certainly not
synagogue?
theology. uh, we would go to different synagogues. Didn't ha- would, was not We're not members of any particular synagogue. Did not go on a regular basis or anything like that. No.
As like a kid, did you like identify as like did you think of yourself as Jewish in a religious sense or
um I mean, as a kid, I think it was more of an ethnicity. I mean, in Iran, that's who you were. That was your identity,
Mhm.
right? Like your identification in Iran says Jewish. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's who you are. That's how you are identified. Um, so when we came here,
Mhm.
um, I mean, obviously Los Angeles has a huge Jewish community,
Yeah.
and um, so you know going from being a persecuted minority to a celebrated well, in Los Angeles, pretty much a majority, right? In Los Angeles, the Jews are kind of a plurality. um, it, it was definitely a significant change. Yeah, yeah.
Did you have a religious identity? Did you think about yourself as Jewish or atheist or agnostic
Oh, I
or
definitely thought of myself as Jewish. I definitely thought of myself as Jewish. It's just my parents were not um, involved in any sort of synagogue, and I wasn't either until I went to college.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, so before that, before college, did you have any, like, prayer practice or anything like that in the home?
Not really, not really, no. Yeah, I didn't even know what a Siddur, which is a Jewish prayer book, was before I went to college.
Did you practice Shabbat or anything like that?
Not really, no.
Um, okay, yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
just, do you think your parents kinda kept that hidden from you or
They didn't keep it hidden from me. My father, I mean, I found all of this out many years later. My father kind of, I mean, there's definitely been a reaction in the Persian Jewish community towards religiosity
Mhm,
because of the Islamic Revolution, and many people do not in any way distinguish between various forms of religiosity. They just think religiosity is fundamentalism, bad, backwards, that type of
mhm,
thing,
yeah,
um, which later became a big deal when I did become religiously observant and orthodox. Um, I was actually quite surprised and blindsided by the hostility towards it, from my family, especially
hostility towards you personally?
towards religiosity.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
'cause
because for example, growing a beard was like almost traumatic for my parents because they associated that so closely with the Islamic regime in Iran.
mhm, yeah, yeah, okay, 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 so let's I can see how that traumatic you say, and you're in the mental health field, so you would know.
Yeah.
Um, you've been working with folks for quite a while, it sounds like. So tell me about though. So you were 8. You know this kind of you had this moment of like being a Jew in Los Angeles, where you were more welcome. Um, so what's happening over time as you're kind of growing up in this not quite secular household, but maybe a little bit sounds maybe it might be. Would you say secular?
Yeah, I mean, the word usually used for it is traditional. You
Traditional.
know, yeah. In especially in Israel, in the Jewish community, there are people who are the Hebrew word is masorti, which means traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I mean, there are people who are like, well, religion's nice, and just as long as you don't take it too seriously, it's fine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what's going on those that you start doing this really? So tell me about, I guess, the transition to college for you. If
So,
nothing changes before then.
I mean, going to college, I mean, I think just like anybody else in college, you're trying to find yourself, trying to establish an identity, who you are, what you want to be, um and I mean, especially for an immigrant, that's it was a time when I was trying to figure out who I am. Um and uh, a large part of that was becoming more and more observant and involved in. I mean, I started with conservative Judaism, but eventually ended up with Orthodoxy, um, and I I still consider myself an Orthodox Jew, even though I'm not an observant Orthodox Jew.
Okay, let's walk this through. So the first time, do you remember going to temple, for example, or when did you first start sort of this new level of observance?
Um, Well, I mean, when I went to college, I got involved in the Hillel on campus,
Okay.
and I eventually decided to start wearing a yarmulke on campus.
How did folks react to that?
Oh, that was a huge. I mean, there are articles in the in there's an article in the Jewish Los Angeles Jewish Journal where I actually discussed this once. Um, I was at the campus of USC, and I was one of the very few people wearing a yarmulke on campus. And like I was very much at the beginning of my Jewish journey, not knowing much about Judaism at all. Um, and My parents reacted very, very harshly to it. They were not at all happy. Um, it was an experience. It was a very interesting experience. I don't know if I can describe it briefly. Um, I learned a lot. I learned a lot because you know So John Vervaeke talks about this. We don't perceive the world. We create a model of the world, and then we test it against reality. And um, where it doesn't match up is where we start making changes. And yeah, I learned a lot about the world over those years. Yeah.
Okay, but you didn't just, forgive me. I'm gonna push back just a little bit. You didn't just make a change. You made a change that somehow you wrote about it in the school newspaper. It sounds like, or
I did write it I did write about it in the Daily Trojan. I was a journalism major undergrad.
mm-hmm.
So I've always been quite. I don't think extroverted is the correct word. Um, Open.
Mm.
Um, you know, I'm very willing to talk to people about. I don't place a great amount of value on privacy.
Okay,
Um,
but you knew this would piss people off.
no, I didn't. I, I
Oh,
I was actually shocked. It
okay.
pissed people off. Yeah, yeah, because I I thought, well, this is something Jews do, and I didn't at all think, and it was very, very surprising to find the reaction that people had. Yeah, it was quite surprising to me, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did
I
that
mean, I'm used to pissing people off. I like so in high school I was, so you have to realize, here I am living in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
and um I do you know who Alex P. Keaton was?
No.
Um so Michael J. Fox played Alex P. Keaton on Growing Pains, which was a sitcom as I was growing up.
Okay.
And growing up in Los Angeles, I very much identified with Alex P. Keaton. I was the little Republican. And so I was used to pissing people off for being a Republican.
Mm.
Um, and I did that through my high school career. I was editor in chief of the newspaper, and I wrote conservative editorials, which people got really upset at, and I was fine with that. The funny thing is, I felt encouraged in that, you know. My articles, people would find interesting and engaging.
Mhm.
Um, and I got all kinds of accolades growing up for being opinionated and arguing with my teachers, and I was arguing with all the teachers because it was Los Angeles, and I didn't really understand um, how I was, and I to some extent I do feel I was being manipulated into a certain role, but if if I wasn't available to make the arguments that I did, for example, in my social studies classes, and then in actually even in college and law school, the professors themselves would have had to, the teachers and professors would have had to make those arguments, but instead they had the opportunity of having me make it, and they could argue with me, which was very convenient for them.
Okay, okay, so they had you a little Republican, but
Yeah.
then a little, little whatever Republican.
Yeah.
Um, but then so then you get to college and this is taking on a new tone where it's like it sounds like, when folks are it's more from your own team where folks are sort of pissed off that you're wearing this head covering. Did that hit a different way? Did that
Yeah, that was very surprising. I did not, I was very surprised. I did not understand it at the time. It took me a long time to really comprehend what was going on. Um, yeah, it it was part of the beginning of realizing um, that a lot of what society says is just lies.
what happened next for you? What was the next step in that?
Well, I probably the next step. So I was hired by one of my professors um, at the Los Angeles Daily News. I was, um, so they were just starting to have an online presence. This was 1997,
Okay.
right? And um, I remember there was an article about a protest at the Western Wall in Jerusalem.
Hmm.
And I remember being at work looking at this article and going, well, as an objective journalist, this article should be at the top of the site. That's what's going to get the most clicks. That's what people are going to be most interested with. At the same time, I was incredibly disgusted with the article. And um, that's when I pretty much decided I was going to leave journalism.
Because you were frustrated with an article?
Because I was frustrated with my role. I felt that as an objective journalist, I was being a cog in a machine that was being used to denigrate my religion. And so I put the article up, and then I decided I'm going to stop working here. And I did. Yeah.
Okay. What happened next for you?
Well, I graduated. I got a job at a homeless shelter.
Yeah, we talked about that.
During that time, I became more and more religiously observant. I ended up kind of quitting, kind of being asked to quit.
The casework job? Were you caseworking? I just assumed you were caseworking in a homeless shelter.
No, I was actually a development assistant. I was helping him with the fundraisers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, at a homeless shelter, pretty much everybody does everything, but especially at the time, that it was a very small homeless shelter.
So you were asked to leave?
Kind of, yeah. Laid off. And I went to Israel for a year to study Judaism.
Under a particular program, or just for yourself?
Yeah, at a yeshiva called Or Sameach in Jerusalem. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And yeah, so I went for a year there, and then I came back and went to law school.
Oh, okay. You lost me because I thought you were going to say you were a rabbi and you did a youth rabbi something or other.
I did that after law school.
Dude, you had like 10 careers. Okay.
I've had way more. So I I kind of sort of jokingly diagnosed myself with oppositional defiant disorder. I take orders from people I respect very well. I don't take orders from people I don't respect at all. And when that happens, I end up so until I eventually started running my own businesses, I don't think I've had a real career that I've maintained for over a year at any one job for over a year. Yeah. So I mean, I've done a lot of different things.
Okay. So you come to the US and you go to law school.
I go to law school, yes.
To what end? What were you trying to...
Well, mostly because I thought that if I were to become a lawyer, I wanted to work in government.
Okay.
I was very interested in public policy. I was also doing my master's of public administration.
You have like 4 master's degrees at this point. Are you going to law school and business school at the same time?
Master's of public administration. It's nonprofit management, but yes, yeah, but both at USC.
Okay.
I actually ended up dropping out in like less than half a semester left, but that's a whole other thing.
Okay, I think I saw that YouTube video. Yeah, we don't have to get into all that.
I mean, we can get into as much as you want, but we'll be here for years.
We'll be here for forever. Okay.
We will. So one of the things for me going to law school was partially because I thought my parents I thought if I became an attorney, my parents would be more accepting of me living an Orthodox Jewish lifestyle.
Okay, so you came back from Israel, and you were intent on living an Orthodox Jewish
Oh
lifestyle.
yeah, I was living an Orthodox Jewish lifestyle. Yes. Yes.
Okay, now tell me a little bit about how. Okay, you grew up, doing all the things, and then all of a sudden you're eating kosher, and you're saying all these prayers, and you're going to all of these meetings, and daily, daily, daily.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I was spending 2 hours a day praying.
What's that? What's that? I mean, that's hard on your body.
Oh, I loved it.
Okay, tell me more.
Um, I mean, the year I spent in Israel may be the happiest time of my life.
Okay.
Um, if knowing everything that I know now, I probably would not have come back. I would have just stayed in Israel. But my parents, um, my parents very much wanted me to come back, and I was very insistent that I was not going to allow my religiosity to create a wedge between me and my family, especially because I had seen it. Um, I had seen it create a wedge with so many people,
Hmm.
right? And frankly, I think that was my immaturity, my unwillingness to really individuate from my parents.
And that you wanted to come back to for their sake.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and really, I was going to law school to try to make them happy, and hoping that that would kind of help them reconcile with my my Orthodox Jewish lifestyle.
Okay, but
Uh,
now I see this as like a huge commitment. You come back, you're now practicing, you're praying 2 hours a day, and you're in two graduate programs at the same time.
yeah.
I don't know, what was that like for you?
Um, it was. I mean, it was fine. I was doing it. Some of it was incredibly difficult because my parents did not make it easier for me to lead that Orthodox lifestyle.
What do you
In
mean?
fact, so for example, um, my parents would be like, "Well, why can't you come to uh, both nights of Rosh Hashanah?" Right?
Hmm.
So, for example, this year, right?
It's coming up, isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
it is.
yeah,
Yeah, next week.
next week.
So, um, so you have for this year, right? You have 2 nights of Rosh Hashanah, and then the third night is the Sabbath. So you have 3 days in a row where I an Orthodox Jew cannot ride in a car, cannot use any electronic devices, you know, pretty much any of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then my parents would be like, well, on the first night, we're going to be at this family member's house. And on the second night, we're going to be at this family member's house. And what I would end up doing is walking 4 or 5 hours in order to be at both things for the family. And, it was very difficult. Um, and my hope was that if I did all of this stuff, it would it would all everything would come out well, and ultimately it didn't. um, and I mean, fast forwarding to 2004,
Hmm.
I realized, oh, I went into debt to get a degree that's pretty much worthless. uh, large amounts of debt to get a degree that's pretty much worthless, to try to satisfy my parents in ways that they're never going to be satisfied, and to and which, like, I was stretching myself way too thin.
What brought on that realization?
Um, a large number of different things, including I mean, I was engaged to be married, and that fell apart. Certain things my parents said when I was graduating. Um, One particularly offensive thing my dad did, for my law school graduation party. He said, "How about we have it at a non-kosher restaurant and you don't eat?" And I was like, "Wow, you are never going to like be like, oh, Jacob wants to keep kosher. Let's accommodate that." Like, it was like, "Oh, wow." Um, yeah, that's even graduating from USC law school is never going to get my dad to be like, "Oh, this is something Jacob wants. Let's do that." And so, yeah, I mean, without getting into all of the details, and there were many, many, many details. And I have to say, I mean, one of the things was actually, so in doing my master's of public administration, I came up with a theory, a thesis that I wanted to write. Um, Here. Um, so this book is what my thesis would have been about. The title insurance industry. Um, this book was written. When was it written? Um, it was written in it was printed by NYU Press in 2007.
Okay.
Now, I I was supposed to have my thesis done in 2003, 2004, and I came to the realization that despite the fact what I still think was a brilliant idea on my part would um, would be the equivalent of injecting billions of dollars into the California economy. That there was no way in hell it was going to actually have that effect because of corruption. And I mean, that book is actual proof of that, because that book was written in 2007. That while they have different solutions than the one I came up with, um, it was written by two university professors, and it still hasn't been put um, into um, into what do you call it, into practice, right? And that was actually very personally, like, um, hurtful, because I felt like, oh, um, this will do more good, and it really would do. I mean, if the law that I was proposing were to be passed in California, um, it would it would maybe just a little bit, but bring down the cost of real estate in California for everyone, right? And it was like, oh, I am never going to be able to actually contribute. Like, I don't live in a system where I feel I'll be able to contribute. And that was one of many things, but it was something very important to me that kept me from actually being able to mentally sit down and write my thesis.
So you came up with this theory that there was also later became a book that someone else wrote to lower the cost of real estate, but you realized that the system was so corrupt that it could never be implemented.
Yeah.
And that was just disillusioned you so much that you couldn't write your thesis.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. So then you had your JD, but you had to sort of move on to.
Well, I didn't get my JD. I ended up just dropping out, which was dumb. But I should have written the thesis, but I didn't.
No need to judge ourselves, Jacob.
Yeah, no. There's plenty of need to judge ourselves. I was a foolish young man.
What was next for you? What was next for you after this, Jacob?
So after that is when I did become an assistant rabbi at a synagogue.
Was that just a job, sort of, in your?
It was a job. It was a job I really loved.
Okay, wait. Was there a bigger crisis here than I'm realizing? Was there like sort of a huge existential crisis, or did you just kind of say "fuck it"? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
There was a series of. Well, you have to realize I am also one of these people who kind of lives my life in these moral crises. Like, yeah, I do try to live a life of repentance and a life of. So when I was 12, I read Crime and Punishment, and
that's not appropriate for 12-year-olds.
Oh, I loved Crime and Punishment. After that I started on this whole Dostoevsky kick. I read Brothers Karamazov and The Prince, and then I read
Did
Anna
your parents
Karenina.
care what you were doing? Like, what was going on, Jacob?
My parents didn't understand me. My parents, I mean, so my parents used to make me do my chores before they would take me to the library as a treat. I started off by reading the entire children's section in the library, and then moving on to the classic section in the adult section, and pretty much reading every book there.
Jacob, I admire this. Okay, I think this is great. Going to the library is a treat.
Oh, I read way too much as a child. Now I kind of regret spending as much time reading as I did.
My mother says reading is never a waste.
So it's kind of funny. 3-Year Letterman. Do you know that Twitter account, 3-Year Letterman?
No, I understand no pop culture references, but I'm going to pretend I do. Wow, that's a great account, Jacob.
So 3-Year Letterman is a satirical account on Twitter, and he claims to be a football coach, and he says an hour in the gym is worth more than a lifetime in a library. And while that's meant to be facetious and funny, to some extent, I think there's more truth in there than our society recognizes. The one class I always got a C in was PE.
How did that happen? How did you get a C, Jacob?
Because I was incapable. Like I had zero physical. Yeah, uh I should have I should have been more. Um, I should have been more interested and involved in physical education than I realized. But I also had this kind of nerd pride in me, of like, yeah, I'm not, I'm the nerdy kid. That was my identity, you know.
Favorite crime and punishment. I got you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, I was reading Hundred Years of Solitude in Spanish. I was reading Borges, reading Aristotle, reading all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And then reading things like Anne Rice. I read every book she's ever written. Um, yeah, uh, all kinds of things I probably shouldn't have been reading at that age.
Did that did that have lasting? I have to. I mean, don't take offense,
Yeah.
but sounds like there was lasting damage. It sounds like now you're kind of.
Oh, I definitely. I mean, I look. The life you lead, what has passed. Repentance allows you to turn dross into gold, right? You turn your mistakes into wisdom. That's the point of it. And yeah, I mean, I've learned lots of lessons. Um if I were to go back to being 16, I would be living a very different lifestyle now than I did then. But you can't go back in time. I mean, that's not possible.
Yeah, but okay, we were in the transition though from being from the joint public affairs.
Yeah. So I decided to go. I kind of left all of that, and I decided to become a rabbi. And
Clergy scare the shit out of me, Jacob. That's something you should know about me. So it
really,
really took.
why?
Anyway, this is about you. You
What?
decided to become a rabbi.
Yeah.
It's
Why do
true. The rumors
clergy
are true.
scare you? That's interesting. You can't just drop that and not explain it.
It was just sort of like a fun get to know you anecdote. Like there's my
Okay.
anecdote.
Okay. Um. Uh. But you can't be a rabbi unless you're married.
Well, ooh, a little bit of a problem for you there.
Yeah. And I almost got married, and then my engagement got my engagement fell apart, and the way I explain it is then I fell apart. It wasn't just the engagement. There were other things, including once I was involved in actually being a rabbi,
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing how petty and not great many people I had respected as rabbis were, which was also very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you want
and
to give some examples of that?
there was one particular situation where two rabbis I had respected from this side of the curtain, you might call it, right? I saw their egos clashing, and I tried to play peacemaker, and that made their egos clash even worse. And they acted in ways that were just completely, completely like, wow, these people are just not people I thought were men of God. I found to be not men of God. And that was very disappointing. That was very disappointing.
Did that change how you felt about your faith at all?
Um, yeah, it did. It did. I mean, ultimately, I became very depressed, and what happened was, because I was depressed, my sister lied and had me committed over the weekend. She said I was threatening to kill myself. I wasn't. This and over that weekend, like, there was no kosher food. I didn't have my prayer book. I I was just in a very bad situation, and I decided, you know what? If God wants me to be living the Orthodox Jewish lifestyle, then this then I just decided he obviously didn't that's not what he wanted in for me in my life.
Mm.
And so when I got out, I dropped all of my observances all at once.
Mm.
And I said, okay, I am going to be a good person, and I am going to um, focus on my mental health, and just try to be a good person and reconstruct my life. And that's what I started to do. Um, of course, then I started having panic attacks. I had severe agoraphobia for over a year. I couldn't leave the house at all. Um,
Were you
until one, yeah,
were you living with other people, or were you living on
yeah,
your own?
I was living by myself. Um, until one of my therapists told me to get a dog, which I did. And the dog is what let me leave the house.
I have a dog, Jacob. We're missing the most important details.
Oh, so Random, what I got her from the pound.
Her name was Random?
Yes. So all of my dogs, so this was part of the thing. I was adding a I was adding a bit of randomness into my life by getting the dog. So my first dog was named Random. My second dog was named Chance. My third dog was named Duke. And my current dog, Happy, her name is actually Happenstance. Oh, and Duke's real name was Hazard.
We're gonna need some pictures of these dogs here, Jacob. I don't know if you think that you can get.
I have a picture of uh, Hazard, Duke over there. And Happy,
Put
come.
Happy on screen here.
Happy, come. Clara wants to say hi.
This is a formal part of the interview.
This is Happy.
What a good dog!
She is an incredibly good dog. But unfortunately, she couldn't be a special assistance dog because she gets bored way too fast because she's too smart
Yes.
to be a special assistance dog.
Okay, well.
So I ended up having to do without a special assistance dog. But
Sure. Yeah.
it worked.
Okay, okay. And then you just keep the cats around for filler? What's the deal here?
No, I actually got Shadow partially because in my clinical work, I hope to do animal therapy.
Okay.
And I figured not everybody can do dogs. So I wanted to have an experience with cats so I could also work with cats.
Why animal therapy?
Because it helped me so much.
Because you had Chance. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Random.
Random.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Random and then Chance, yeah. and then Duke. Yeah.
Okay. So a therapist is like, get a dog and then your life changes?
Oh, I mean, it definitely helped. I mean, this took years. I started with a dog. I became a tournament organizer for Magic the Gathering. Um, I ended up traveling the world. Uh, um, well, Mark, Duke's real name was Hazard. So it's random, chance, hazard, happenstance. And the cat is named Shadow. Yeah. um, I became a tournament organizer for Magic the Gathering. And I was working in that for a while.
Why that?
Well, it was a game I played since high school, and it was a way of getting back into the work life from not leaving my house for a long time.
Were you
And
playing online? Were you playing in person?
oh, no, I was organizing tournaments for people. I was a yeah, in real life. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was a whole turn of stuff. And then I eventually got into insurance. So for the past 10 years I've been an insurance broker.
Okay, Magic the Gathering sounds more fun.
Yeah, but insurance makes more money, and I ended up suing Wizards of the Coast in a class action suit
Holy shit, why?
because they were mistreating the tournament officials. And I mean, they were dumb enough to give me the perfect entree to sue them for a lot of money. I didn't get a lot of it. I got a car out of it, which was nice, but like per hour, it didn't make much money. But yeah, I put my legal experience to use there. Uh, I I definitely ended up costing them way over $2 million, and hopefully making them treat their volunteers better. Um, they they referred to their tournament officials as volunteers, but they would treat us as employees, and actually worse than employees.
Oh, like
I
a
was like,
kind of thing. Okay.
yeah, and it's like you can do one or the other. You can have volunteers, and you can treat them like volunteers. Actually, I would argue for-profit corporations can't have volunteers, but um, they ended up that was a whole thing. But yeah, and then I became an insurance broker, and just for my personal mental health, I got involved with the Jordan Peterson stuff, and that's how I ended up here.
Okay, what year? So wait, I had another question though. Before we follow this train, which I do want to follow, was your discontinuation of your daily orthodox practices, was that, did you mean to sort of present that as a cause of these like panic attacks and agoraphobia and stuff, or?
I didn't realize at the time, but now in retrospect, what I know about mental health,
Mm.
it makes perfect sense that you just, I mean, you lose all of these practices, these rituals. Yeah, you're going to fall into a fit of anxiety and depression. My father still to this day congratulates me for getting over my OCD. He thinks being an Orthodox Jew is just a manifestation of being of mental illness. He really does. But from actually what I have learned about from Vervaeke about ritual and stuff, I now realize that, yeah, I had, how the ritual aspects of an Orthodox Jewish life um, were actually what was keeping me sane, what was keeping me functional, especially because of the PTSD from my childhood experiences. Um, and once I lost that, yeah, I completely fell apart.
Okay. Today, if you had to check a box on a survey, Orthodox Jew, um, atheist, agnostic.
I usually just say Jewish. My only reluctance in calling myself an Orthodox Jew is I'm not observant, and a lot of people assume that I would be keeping kosher or the Sabbath or etc. And I don't. So I just call myself Jewish.
Okay. I'm really holding back here.
Why are you holding back?
Okay, well, this is going to take us in a slightly different direction than we were going to go.
Sure.
What is someone who considers themselves to be a Jew doing watching all of the Christian Reformed Church programs and so forth?
Okay. So to explain, what was going on is I was not involved in Jewish religious life at all. 2016, when Jordan Peterson came on the scene, I started getting involved in the Jordan Peterson. There was a Jordan Peterson meetup here in Los Angeles that I was going to. And it was actually through that I heard of Paul Vanderklay's YouTube channel.
Okay.
And at the time, Jordan Peterson's entire thing was very much atheists who were trying to get all the benefits of religion without actually having to be religious. And so vast majority of the people who were involved were all atheists.
This was 2017?
2016, 2017, yeah.
Okay. I'm still here, but I gotta let my dog out.
You let your dog out. That's important. I am a big fan of dogs being let out when they need to be let out.
Barking a lot. Sorry.
It's all good. Take care of the little puppies. Mark says, we don't even need to go that far, Jacob. We just call you Jacob the Jew. Slightly disagree, Jacob, but it's a close enough point that I'll not object at all. Some of the benefits, maybe the most important ones, great framing.
It's nice to see Mark.
Mark Lefebvre.
I noticed that he was on. That's nice to see him there.
Yes. Jordan Peterson Sphere for the win. What's your dog's name? People are asking.
Lucy the Beagle.
Lucy the Beagle.
Yes. We adopted her when she was 8 years old.
Uh-huh.
So she's been like a little bit like, it's you can't. There's some limitations on what she knows, but
How old is she now?
she's like 12. She's kind of a little bit of a pandemic dog.
Okay.
But she's gotten a lot better. She's much better than she was, and she's just like the cutest dog ever. So
Beagles always are.
yes, she's like tiny. She's like a miniature beagle almost, not quite.
Yeah, I jokingly say dogs under 25 pounds should be euthanized for their own good.
You can't say that, Jacob.
I can, I do.
Lucy's just on the border. She's kind of fat, so 26 pounds. She's good.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I allowed to call my dog fat? I don't know. Cancel me, please. I didn't say she should be euthanized.
I mean, poor dogs. Why should they have to live a life of being under 25 pounds?
She's so cute. Okay, wait. Okay, so give me the hot goss. I'm sorry, my attention drifted with my dog, but she's good now. Tell me. So to go where you were going with you were
right. So the Jordan Peterson. I mean, it was mostly people who were atheists, oftentimes people who were formerly religious. There was very little involvement back in 2016 of people who were actually religious. And what happened was, as people were, with Jordan Peterson and the engagement in religiosity, people started asking about Judaism. And I had answers to a lot of people's questions. And to the point where it became, for me, and I seriously do believe this, that I started understanding that I think this is what God wanted from me, is to be available as a Jewish voice in this environment to help people who often were very mystified by Judaism, had certainly Orthodox Judaism, right? Mm-hmm. Which is pretty much inaccessible to anybody who isn't Jewish. And that's basically been my role. Now going on, I don't know, certainly over 6 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, my involvement with Father Stephen DeYoung and his work, what I was doing with TLC and Paul Vanderklay and stuff, and the work I hope to continue with Fountain of Comfort, is in a very strange way, I feel that I am living much more Orthodox Jewish life than I did 20 years ago, when I was actually, observant, praying 2 hours a day, going to synagogue at least once a day, observing all of the holidays in a very different way. I think that I feel now, in ways that I didn't then, that I am actually doing what God wants me to be doing. I am fulfilling my tafkid, my mission in life.
I want you to say a bit more about that, about how the things you're doing with the people.
Well, I mean, so Jonathan here is a Noahide. Have you heard of Noahides?
Okay, I was watching something you were doing, and you were sort of explaining Noahide, and then two things under that. Um, that's all I
So
got. Just a
to
general.
to explain,
Yeah.
2,000 years ago, before Christianity, an estimated 50% of people who attended synagogues were Gentiles.
I didn't know that.
Most people didn't know that. And so in the Christian Bible, they're referred to as God-fearers, possibly also as Judaizers. There were, so within Judaism, there has, I would say always, but certainly 2,000 years ago, there was a role for Gentiles who believed in the God of Israel.
Yeah.
And what happened was that when Christianity came into its own, it actually became illegal for Gentiles to be involved with synagogues. Certainly under Justinian, and for thousands of years, and then also similarly under Islam. If you were not Jewish, a member of Israel, you were not allowed to be involved with synagogues.
Sure.
And anybody who did get involved in a synagogue would be under a process of conversion, right? To be a member of Israel. So this role of a Gentile believer in Orthodox Judaism fell away. There basically was no such person for thousands of years.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
What happened over the past 100 years was that a lot of Protestant Christians decided that they wanted to reach out to and evangelize Jews in a culturally appropriate manner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they started forming these synagogues, they called them, which were in essence churches, but were dressed up in Judaism, with Hebrew, with the Hebrew prayers and all of that, but theologically they were small o Orthodox Christian, Trinitarians, etc. What happened as a result of that was they got a very small number of Jews to convert, but a large number of Gentiles Christians started attending these synagogues and learning about Judaism. And that was the beginning of what's called the Messianic Jewish or Messianic Christian movement. There's been an offshoot of it that's called the Hebrew Roots movement.
Okay.
And there was also within the Jewish community counter missionary efforts. So what happened was a lot of these Christians ended up believing in Judaism, but not necessarily wanting to convert to Judaism.
Sure.
And in the 70s, with the encouragement of Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who was the seventh Rebbe of Chabad, Grand Rabbi of Chabad Hasidic dynasty,
Okay.
a Noahide movement started. Today, as far as we know, some 100,000 people around the world identify as Noahides, they are Gentiles who believe in and practice Orthodox Judaism. There are multiple problems here, one of which is Orthodox Judaism tends to be completely unaware of these people and unable to actually interface with them in any real way. That started to change to some extent. But my channel is probably one of the larger channels available to Noahide on YouTube. And one of the few that can be considered actually part of the Orthodox Jewish community. So I have, in a very real sense, this channel is a interface between Orthodox Judaism and the Noahide movement online.
That's really, I mean, that's really interesting because there's so many different directions we could take. But is this is a movement? Do you see this as an increasing movement?
Oh, it's definitely growing. I will just say there's one person. I forget her name. She's a professor, I believe, at Duke. I believe she's at Duke.
That would make sense.
Who has been the only academic scholar writing about the Noahide movement, and I would call her writings viciously anti-Semitic, despite the fact she's Jewish. And so I would caution you, if you do any academic research into it, you will definitely come upon her work, because this is her work. This is her area of expertise. And I would just call her rabidly anti-Semitic.
Well, then there's a piece of this, so that's online as well. It seems like, because you have this history where you do have this Orthodox training, and you're kind of the center of this, connecting. You're like sort of the link in the node in the chain, almost sort of connecting all of these folks out here who are Gentiles and might be looking to learn more, and they're looking to you on your YouTube channel.
Well, there are Orthodox rabbis who are involved. Part of the problem, and I have been in touch with the Orthodox rabbis who are trying to. Part of the problem is there's just such a huge gap. It is very, very difficult for Gentiles to really interact and know how to interact with these rabbis. Mm-hmm. And despite the fact these are some of the rabbis who are most capable, I mean, Rabbi Breitowitz taught at University of Maryland Law School for years, right? So he definitely knows and has interacted with the broader Christian world, very much so. But at the same time, I mean, I am in contact with him. Same thing with Rabbi Shulman. He has been interacting with Christians for many years, and he is a proper Orthodox rabbi. Rabbi Shirky, unfortunately, doesn't speak English, but he's also been very involved. So there are actual rabbis who are involved, and I definitely defer to them. But at the same time, my channel, I mean, I'm able to have frank discussions and engagement with Christians in ways that frankly, it just wouldn't be appropriate for many of these rabbis to do.
Why bother, Jacob? Why bother with these Christians?
I mean, I'm a messianist. You must have listened to my interview with Paul, right?
I did listen to your interview with Paul. Tell me more, though.
I'm a messianist. I believe in the coming of the Messiah. I believe that that the entire reason Christianity exists is for Christians to learn about the God of Israel. And I believe we are approaching a time when Christians will come to realize that they were very mistaken in how they understood their own religion and certainly the God of their religion.
Okay, all this disagreement about Paul and all this stuff and messianism and whatever. Still don't get it. Tell it to me like I'm 5, Jacob. Why are you doing all this?
Because
doesn't really, I mean, that's
because I believe that the kingdom of God will be manifest on earth as it is in heaven. And that includes all of the people, including all Christians and Muslims, coming to recognize the mistakes in their own religion and coming to recognize the truth of Judaism. Yeah, I'm a missionary of sorts, you could say.
Okay.
I'm not proselytizing, that's against my religion, but I'm here as
Using point for me there.
I am here as a resource for anyone who wants and needs it.
A resource specifically to connect them to Judaism.
To the God of Israel, to Torah, to Judaism, yes.
Okay. Now that we've been talking about Paul for a little bit.
Which Paul? Paul Vanderklay or Paul of Tarsus?
PVK.
Okay. What do you want to talk about PVK about?
Okay, well, not just PVK, but y'all had a falling out, sorts, perhaps?
Oh, I have a falling out with PVK on a daily basis.
Okay, I was gonna say at least once a week that I know of, but
yeah.
What goes on there? Are y'all mad at each other? What's going on?
I love Paul.
But
and I hope he will eventually snap out of his really bad theology, which causes him to be less of a good person than he could be.
Wait, what? There's so many negatives there. It's like you almost just called him a bad person.
Well, he is a bad person.
Why is PVK a bad person?
Ask him. He will say, I'm a Calvinist. I believe in the depravity of the human heart. I want him to stop believing that he's a depraved person who hates God.
Is that what he believes?
Unfortunately, he is a Calvinist.
Do you believe that he's a depraved person that hates God?
No, of course not. Calvinism is an abomination and blasphemy.
So you're trying to bring Paul into your circle as well.
I am trying to bring the entire world to understanding that God loves them. And God is not the horrible, evil God that Christianity teaches God is.
Well, okay, but if we read the Christian Old Testament, the Jewish scriptures, God's kind of an asshole.
The God of the Christian Old Testament is definitely an asshole, yes.
Okay, but that's the same.
No, not at all.
All right.
Yeah, that's the problem is Christians. Well, first of all, they mistranslate the Bible. Like Christian Bibles lie to you. The mistranslations are horrible.
I mean, it's all a translation, and those are very politically sort of.
Yeah, I mean, the part of the whole thing of my channel is trying to help Christians to learn how to read the Bible in Hebrew, hopefully, to check the actual Hebrew themselves. and not believe in the Christian Old Testament, which is blasphemy.
Okay. Not the first time I've been called blasphemous, but
I didn't know you were a Christian.
I'm not a Christian. I'm caricatured as an atheist. That's
okay. Caricatured as an atheist. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you consider yourself?
I thought I was sort of the question asker here.
Okay.
Did you see that? Did you see that? That fire?
I did. Okay. It's okay.
All right. Let's get to this if we can. Where do you stand? So it sounded like you were saying a minute ago, you're kind of done with TLC. Is that?
Well, for years now, I have been saying that Paul refuses to lead TLC where it needs to go. Yeah. And so I have, for years now, been doing certain things on my own. My Discord initially was a Discord server for people who got kicked out of Bridges of Meaning.
That's kind of baller. Why did you do that?
Because it was necessary.
Okay.
Joey needed to kick people off Bridges of Meaning. I completely agreed with him in how he did that. At the same time, we the people who got kicked out off Bridges of Meaning also needed a way of keeping in touch with this community. And so that's how my Discord really started, was people who got kicked off Bridges of Meaning.
Mm-hmm.
But it was when Joey left that and Paul refused to take responsibility for Bridges of Meaning that I had my series firing Paul. There were a lot of videos. I made a whole a huge to-do dramatically causing ruptures and rocking the boat as I do.
On purpose?
Yeah.
Why?
To make the world a better place.
Okay, but how does rocking the boat make the just draw it out for me,
because when things need to happen. So this is how I explained it to one person. Let's see how it works with you.
Great.
How many times have you called 911 in the last year?
Once or twice.
Okay. Was it for something personal, or was it for something, you were passing by and you saw something and you called 911?
You're in a public place and somebody says call 911, like a medical emergency or something like that. Like I was at the bar this week and somebody had some kind of medical emergency.
Yeah.
Where this is going. I'm just answering the question.
No, I am that type of person that I if I'm driving down the 405 and I see smoke in the bushes, there might be a brush fire, I will call, or if there's something in the lanes, I will call 911.
So how many times this past year has that been for you?
I would say I probably call 911 once every month or so.
So you're a regular. They know you. They've got your number up there.
Yeah. And there are people who call 911, and there are people who, like, when I ask them that, they're like, "Oh, I've never had to call 911, thank God." I'm like, well, so.
Okay, I'm still here. My dog needs me again.
Quite all right. There are people who feel like it is their business to be involved in. I guess you could call me a busybody of sorts. I try not to intrude or trespass on anyone's life, but I definitely, I keep track of the people who join my Discord server, and if they leave, I ask them, "Hey, is everything okay?" Or if I haven't heard from them in a while, I will contact them and be like, "Hey, is everything okay?" Um, and I think communities need people who are willing to do the work that needs to be done to make community happen.
And for you, that is calling 911?
Sometimes calling 911, sometimes, oftentimes encouraging people who don't want to lead to lead. That's a huge thing because the people who want to lead are the people who should not lead. You have to find people who don't want to lead but have the capacity to lead, and you have to encourage them to lead.
How do you do that? How do you encourage people to lead?
Sometimes by kicking them in the tochas. But usually just encouraging people is encouraging people, hey, you have a capacity, you have a talent, and inviting them to lead and praising them. And I mean, it depends on the individual, it depends on the situation, but so here, you might enjoy this and you might not. So sometimes people ask me what I disagree with Jordan Peterson about. And the number one thing I disagree with Jordan Peterson about is, in his symbology, he maps the masculine to order and the feminine to chaos. In the Jewish symbology, the masculine is chaos and the feminine is order, if you can say that to be the case, right? As much as you can say that to be the case. And I think that what's happened over the past 60 years is that we have lied to a lot of women. We've told them that in order to be a successful woman, you have to be a man. You have to want to be successful in those things that men want. And we've completely devalued those things that women have contributed over the thousands of years to society. And one of those things is being a socialite, being the person who throws cocktail parties, being the person who does the matchmaking. We've lost that. And to lose that, I mean, I think is the biggest single reason that our society is falling apart. You can write books about bowling alone all you want. Once you take all of the most competent women who were the ones who were competent in doing the charity work, in throwing the big parties, in actually doing the matchmaking work that's necessary in order for people to get married, your society is going to fall apart. And that's what we've done over the past 60 years. We have a lot of women going to medical school and law school and this school and that school.
Far more women than men in graduate programs.
And nobody's throwing cocktail parties.
And your argument is that, well, actually, to have a thriving society, we need all those things.
Yeah. How do you have a society without matchmakers and cocktail parties?
Well, this just begs the question for me, Jacob, and I don't know if this is too antagonistic here, but why can't men throw cocktail parties?
Well, physiologically, we're not neurologically as competent as women are in tracking human beings. I mean, that's just a physiological difference between male and female brains.
I want to see a few more fMRI studies, Jacob.
You can look up all the MRIs you want. The fact is,
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, women just have more interest in the relationship between human beings, and men generally are much more interested in things.
I've heard this before, Jacob. I've heard this before. I got you. I see what you're saying, and so that's sort of what's going wrong with society. And your hope is to sort of you are doing that work. You're starting this Discord server, and you're not starting. You have a long-standing successful Discord server, and you're doing this work, pulling people together on your channel. Do you see yourself as? I mean, like I see you as sort of this is the cocktail party effect. Not effect. That's a totally different thing. This is the cocktail party.
Yeah.
Recreated online.
Yeah.
But not only do you meet people online, you are also meeting people
in real life, which is far more important. Yeah.
Tell me about that. Why do you go? So you travel the country. I've heard of you meeting people on the East Coast. I've heard of you meeting people, up and down the West Coast.
Yeah.
I missed you when I was in Seattle. What's going on there?
I was actually at a different thing, but also, I mean, I have major disagreements with Nate and that whole Grill Country crowd.
I'm sure this is online somewhere.
To some extent, despite what people may think, I actually am not very antagonistic. I actually really dislike getting into fights with people. I do it when I think it's necessary.
Okay.
A few times I have had to warn the Grail Country people that I will fight back, and establish my boundaries. They have a very different theology than I do, which translates to a very different way of interacting with people. One which I am very theologically opposed to in many ways. The biggest practical difference is they keep on talking about keeping things small, and I keep on talking about making things bigger. There were only 80 people at Northwestuary. I think that's terrible.
And that's why you didn't go?
No, I didn't go because I was invited somewhere else.
Oh.
And I really did want to go to the other place.
And you were
I might have still not gone to Northwestuary because it was so small, and I don't think it may not have been worth my time. I think we should be having conventions of at least 1,000 people.
Okay. I guess I'm trying to understand. You just wanted there to be more people. You want more people to be involved.
I want it to be open. I want it to be done well. The amount of money that was spent on Northwestuary
Mm.
was a waste of yeah. And look, 1,000 people requires serious logistics. Um, I mean, I've I have run events that I mean, I was working Comic Con for Hasbro. I I think we can be the next Comic Con. I think we can actually influence our society seriously. I hope we do. Um, I hope that Rescue the Republic is very, very successful. I don't know how many people showed up over this weekend, but I consider that to be a, an important part of um, what's going on here.
That was sorry. Rescue the Republic. That was not just like sort of the intellectual arm or the religious arm. That was also very political.
Yes.
So you're hoping for more political engagement from this
Oh,
project.
definitely. Yeah, I've always been very look. If so, Paul says religion is always and politics is now. Well, if religion is always, then it's also now.
Okay, so you're hoping then to add so how does politics sort of shape your work or your thinking or your sort of arm of this?
Oh, I mean, I think this is an important part of hopefully the political future. I mean, um, what is religious is broader than what is political. What it's, I mean, the political should be a small part of what we do here, and it is a small part of what I do here.
How do you do the political here?
I mean, I've had broadcasts talking about politics. I I don't make it a major focus of my work, but it is part of my work. Yeah.
I've seen your Trump hat.
Yep. Yep.
Good for
Make
you, 'cause
America great again. Yes.
I kind of thought that that might be tongue in cheek.
Um, it is and it isn't. I mean, I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but
What am I supposed to do with that?
well, I mean, you don't have to be a fan of Donald Trump to realize that the Democrats are destroying this country.
Okay, this is a perfect segue. I gotta ask you. View on abortion. Do you think that abortion should be allowed in this state?
The the Jewish view on abortion is far more nuanced than the Christian one.
But I was asking for your political view.
Right. But my view on abortion is based on my theology. And I was very, very happy that Roe v. Wade was overturned for the same reasons that Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it was a bad decision. Roe v. Wade was one of the worst Supreme Court decisions probably in US history. That it's been overturned is great. That it is now a question of states making the decisions is great.
Right?
And frankly, I think it is now in California, we are becoming less and less. I mean, I think aborting a child because it has Down syndrome is an abomination.
Okay.
In 2016, during the debate, Hillary Clinton explicitly espoused murdering children with Down syndrome.
Okay. I think I kind of got like a vibe of like where you stand on that. Is that fair? Okay.
So I mean, I I'm not I'm not somebody who believes that. Frankly, my views on abortion are probably in line with 80% of the American public. Late term abortion, bad. First few months, still bad, but shouldn't be illegal, you know?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I got you. I got you. And then another question, just while we're kind of in the political side of things, um, just asking about your view on gay marriage. Should people of the same sex be allowed to get married?
I don't believe in heterosexual marriage. I don't believe there should. I believe there's absolutely. It is grotesque to me that people will go down to City Hall and get a license to be in love. That is absolutely insane. I don't believe in civil marriages.
Okay. You only believe in religious marriages
Yeah,
arranged by a matchmaker?
arranged with whoever you want, but like get the government out of marriage.
Okay. 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 So just one more question about politics. So 0 being conservative, 10 being liberal. Where would you place yourself?
I do that in different ways at different times.
Mhm.
Um, my my Twitter bio says recovering conservative. Um, I I don't think the left, right, liberal, conservative um, framework we're using is very useful.
Okay. Okay.
The fact is, I think temperamentally, I'm probably very, very progressive.
Mhm.
But having lived in Los Angeles and seeing um, the worst of what is considered left
Mhm.
has made me react to it in a. I think I have. So, for example,
Mhm.
the fact that Beverly Hills High School and the Beverly Hills School District
Yeah.
exists,
Okay.
um, and that the best public um, schools in Los Angeles are basically off limits to Hispanic and Black children
Mhm.
is a de facto segregation that's far beyond anything that exists anywhere in the South.
Yeah.
Yet all of the supposed progressives here in Los Angeles continue this racist system. I mean, if you want to get rid of systematic racism, let's start with the school system here in Los Angeles. So, what do you call that? Somebody who believes that the state of California is systemically racist
Mhm.
and needs to be desegregated. Am I conservative or liberal or what am I?
You don't fit in a box, Jacob. You don't fit in a box.
I guess I don't.
Okay. How important is religion to you in your daily life? 0 to 10.
10.
How important is it to the sense of who you are?
10.
How important is it for making decisions on family?
10.
How important for making decisions on politics?
10.
How often do you attend a religious service?
Uh, Once a month-ish.
How often do you pray?
Daily.
Read Holy Scripture.
Daily.
Um, how certain are you that you believe in God?
10.
That you believe in an afterlife?
10.
Okay. How many hours a day do you spend watching YouTube?
Ooh, Good question. Average, probably something like 6.
Okay. Are you doing other stuff while you're doing that? And are you counting stream time?
Um, I was counting stream time. I am often doing other things, yes.
Okay. See, like I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question because if I ask how many hours a day do you spend online, for a lot of people that's like 20 hours.
Yeah. Oh, I am constantly online.
Okay. See, I don't know how to ask that. Like do I ask like, tell me about your social media use, or you know what I mean? Like, is there any way to do? Because like, people are always online.
Yeah, especially people involved in this little corner. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
but how's it changed since you've started streaming? Like, are you spending more time online as you're
I'm actually so I I was spending more time passively consuming internet content before I was streaming and getting getting um, like socially involved. Now, so Friday evenings I go to the gym with one or more of the people from this little corner,
mm,
and then we often end up getting dinner with some other people, and so we were talking until 2 a.m. Um, and pretty much nobody was on their phones because we're actually getting together in real life.
mm,
The connections that I have made online through the Jordan Peterson Sphere, this little corner, has in fact vastly reduced the amount of time I spent passively consuming internet and even just being online.
have you seen changes in yourself as this has happened?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. The Jacob of today is very different from Jacob 8 years ago. But I mean, I constantly say I'm 47. I'm not who I was when I was 37, not who I was when I was 27, not who I was when I was 17, and certainly not who I was when I was 7. And I hope at 57, I'm not who I am today.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting how you started like with like the Jordan Peterson meetup groups and then you got online from there.
I mean, I ended up going to the Jordan Peterson meetup groups because I wanted to meet people who I was I was involved in a Facebook group for the Weinsteins. I was involved in Discord for Eric Weinstein. I was involved in uh, Jordan Peterson stuff. I was involved in ThinkSpot when he was trying to get that going. Um, I've, I mean, yeah. Well, you have to realize. I mean, I grew up when I was in high school. I was on bulletin board systems.
So you've been here since the beginning.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I've been. I was one of the first editors of Wikipedia. I checked recently. There are very, very basic, um, high level Wikipedia articles on concepts in law that I wrote back in law school 20 years ago.
So you've been online since the very beginning.
Pretty much, yeah, since the 90s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to edit Wikipedia, you need to know a certain amount of like code and stuff. So you kind of had that sort of tech edge.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in undergrad, I had a business making web pages, And like I said, I was one of the youngest editors of the Los Angeles Daily News when they first started their online presence on AOL.
So was that something that sort of, it seems like tech then would consume a lot of your time from the very beginning.
Oh yeah, as a child, I mean, when I was in high school, I was in front of a computer constantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're someone who's never really been apart from technology.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean,
Even in your year as a abroad, studying to be a rabbi.
um, yeah, I mean, it's not like the Orthodox Jewish community. I mean, a lot of people think of the Amish when they think of the Orthodox Jewish community. I was never a part of the most insular parts, which, well, even when I was more involved, for example, with Satmar, I I was strange because I was on a computer all the time and I was very tech involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then you got the true gamer creds because of all of this convention stuff that you've done. Okay, makes sense to me. Okay, you're fitting all my stereotypes.
I'm what in all your stereotypes?
I said fitting, but you're also breaking them at the same time. I don't know what to do with you, Jacob. I don't know what to do with you.
Nobody knows what to do with me, Clara. Nobody knows what to do with me.
Okay.
Even God apparently doesn't know what to do with me.
Well, what do you think God wants to do with you, Jacob?
Um, I, I think God wants me to be here to let Rabbi Mullet see you destroyed with facts and logic.
Rabbis already scared me. I told you.
Rabbi Mullet, funny enough, he went to Or Sameach, the same yeshiva I went to in Jerusalem.
So y'all are bros.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
What's his favorite flavor of ice cream?
I don't know. Rabbi Mullet, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? I'm going to probably guess chocolate. That's my guess. We'll see. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
My favorite flavor of ice cream? I'm glad you asked. I don't know, but I just want to share this anecdote that today there's this local creamery that's just really amazing and they make frozen custard. And I tried their pumpkin pie flavor and I was just next level impressed. It was like the little pieces of pumpkin, not the pumpkin, the shell of the pie. So that's today's favorite.
That is so stereotypically white girl. Pumpkin flavor.
No, it wasn't pumpkin flavor. It was an actual pumpkin pie. It was local. I'm not stereotypical, Jacob.
You are such a stereotypical white woman. Oh my god.
No,
I'm joking with
it's only for coffee. It's only
joking with you.
I don't want to fulfill any stereotypes. I'm straight edge. There was a question I had to ask, and
So Rabbi Mullet apparently really likes Rita's frozen custard.
He's just saying that because I said frozen custard was an acceptable answer, so I primed him.
There's actually a Rita's frozen custard near here. I went there. It was kind of expensive.
That's a bummer. I want to make sure I ask. I mean, if I was a good sociologist, I would just really push you into saying something more about this conflict stuff because I feel like it's doing something so interesting.
Clara, there's no such thing as a good sociologist.
All right, Jacob, you win. All sociologists are shit, and the government conspiracy.
Sociology is not a real discipline.
You know what? I never claimed to be doing a real discipline.
Okay, so don't worry about it.
Okay, well.
You can submit pretty much anything. I mean, it's an ethnography.
At this point, I just gotta sell books, Jacob. I gotta sell
books. You're trying to sell books?
Yeah. Would you like to buy one? It's gonna retail for $19.99.
What books are you selling?
The book I
write. If it's an academic publication, there's no way it's going to be less than $50.
The paperback comes back a couple years later, so you have to wait like in like 5 years, after there's been an expensive hard copy. Eventually, there'll be a paperback, we hope.
I doubt it very much.
Well, Jacob, I see why you are involved in so much conflict in the corner. You're not even part of the call. What are you watching? Here's the thing I need to know. What are you watching every week? Like you show up, you don't like Paul. He's kind of a big meanie, but you show up in his live streams and actually you love him. So I just don't get it. I'm missing something here.
No, so I have been trying to get Paul to take real leadership and real responsibility for a while.
Okay, and have this problem with Grail Country, and they kind of suck, and they don't see things the way you see things. And
well, I mean, lots of people don't see things the way I see things. Mark doesn't see things the way I see things, but I don't have a conflict with Mark Lefebvre.
Okay, so he's cool. Why is Mark cool?
Because he isn't he doesn't have fake winsomeness to him.
Who has fake winsomeness? I'm just that winsomeness. How am I supposed to boil that down to anything that's going to sell books?
Fake winsomeness is what Paul Vanderklay and Grail Country do, which is supposedly they love everyone, but they don't really. They just refuse to tell you to your face when they don't like something.
Do you think that's how I got in?
No. Why? No,
that was a joke, Jacob. But tell me, what about the boundary distinction? Because actually, it's a good boundary distinction. Fake winsomeness. Who are you talking about? Like, I mean, like, what does this actually mean?
There are people who will not say to you straightforwardly, I think your theology is shit.
Yeah.
They won't tell you, hey, I don't like you. If I don't like you, I'll tell you I don't like you.
Okay.
There are people who you have to guess if what they like and what they don't like, and there are people who don't. Their clarity is a good thing. Boundaries and like the rules and the roles on my Discord server are very clear. And that's a good thing.
Okay. So
people know where they stand with me. They don't have to guess. I'm if I disapprove of something, I'll let them know, and they don't have to care.
Do you kick people off your Discord?
The only person who's actually been kicked off my Discord was Clara, and that's because there's a rabbi who was involved with my Discord. He hasn't been involved for a little while, but he demanded that she be kicked off the Discord. She's the only person who's ever been banned off my Discord.
Was there drama proceeding?
It's not a question of drama. Here, let me show you some pictures of Clara that she is famous for. And you might understand why people might not be very happy about Clara being around. This is Clara.
Okay, all right, that's a little. You might get kicked off of YouTube just for showing that. I want my face up next to that. I can see where she was kicked out.
Yeah. That's Clara.
Okay, so it seems like there's some extremities that you might have allowed to stay.
I mean, I have a prison channel on my Discord where people get uh, uh, get sent off to if they're exceptionally bad.
Okay, your Discord makes a lot more sense now that I've kind of heard you explain. Some of us are too lazy to read all the rules on 15 different Discords. I'm sorry, everybody whose Discord I'm on, but haven't read the rules for.
I make things clear. I think making things clear is good.
Okay, and you wish that the other channels, especially the TLC, would do that.
Well, I mean, Grim Grizz doesn't make things clear, but that's his shtick, is for things not to be clear. That's what Grim Grizz is. That's what he does. That's his role.
So Grim Grizz can do that, but PVK can't do that because then that's ambiguous about where people stand.
Well, no. PVK, so everybody knows that PVK, like Bridges of Meaning, is PVK's Discord server. But if you ask PVK, he will say, no, it's not my Discord server. That's a lie.
Well, I think
I don't like lies.
He doesn't have enough hours in the day to monitor Discord servers.
He doesn't have to monitor it. He can do what he actually really does, which is appoints the person who's the moderator, but he claims that he doesn't, which is a lie. I don't like lies.
Okay.
He knows that's not true.
I mean, it feels like I get this sense almost of like betrayal from you, that like, you know, there's this thing out there that's officially the truth, but you know, you're seeing through it.
I think having convenient lies, like I really don't like polite lies. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes when someone needs it, like, yeah, I'm not going to go up to every child and tell them there's no Santa Claus, but
okay. I mean, is there anything else I need to know, like, before we, like...
Oh, there's so much you need to know.
Oh, damn it, Jacob. Give me an outline.
Well, okay. Can I ask you questions now?
I suppose it's only, like, I mean, like, I feel like it's only fair to, like, I don't know. You can ask me anything you want, and if I can't answer it or don't feel like answering it, I'll let you know.
So why are you getting a PhD in sociology?
Because if you get a master's degree in social science, there's absolutely no chance of making money with it or doing anything with it, and I really didn't like market research. So, wait, I shouldn't say that publicly. Damn it. I love market research. It's employable. If you're hiring, I'm in. I'm really great at it.
Okay, you are way too smart to think that you are getting a PhD in sociology for the money.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not, right? I'm getting,
obviously.
I'm getting a PhD in sociology because I have questions about the world, and I've always had questions about the world. And so, you know, one of the ways to spend your life asking and answering questions is to get a PhD in whatever field is interesting to you. And I chose sociology because, well, despite your reservations, Jacob, it's a way of making sense of making meaning of the world.
You don't believe that the ideological corruption where they constantly tell you lies is going to destroy
every bit of information that comes at you, every fact, every fiction, everything, every story that somebody tells you is an argument and has a spin, right? And so sociology is absolutely no different, right? Everything you read is going to be an argument, and you're going to be writing and reading an argument. You don't agree?
How very postmodernist of you.
Well, you know what? Truthfully, I don't think I really understand what postmodernism is. So I was reading Michael Martin's sociology book this morning because I'd like to argue with him about it. And he talks about postmodernism. And no,
Sociology is bullshit.
okay, well, it's more extensive than I understand. But I'm not,
No, it's bullshit. Bullshit obfuscation. Um, there there are people who say real things, and there are people who say things which sound cute, and other people are are not willing to actually cut through. Um, I mean, what's his name? Hicks. Who am I thinking of who wrote about postmodernism? Um, Come on, chat, help me. He's the one who Stephen Hicks, explaining postmodernism. There we go.
okay.
If you want to understand, I highly recommend the work of Stephen Hicks, James Lindsay.
Yeah, James Lindsay.
Why do you roll your eyes? He's just making an argument. It's as valid as anything else, right, Clara?
No, I didn't say it's just as valid. I said the reason you can't dismiss something just because
It's false.
Hey, you are destroying me with facts and logic, Jacob. It's 3 hours later my time, so I get to be 3 hours less sharp, all right?
You don't have to be sharp.
I think it's worth. Okay, here's the thing. I think it's worth reading everybody, even people you disagree with. I mean, I'm over here, sort of an atheist. Listening.
Unless it's garbage, why would you waste your time with garbage?
You want to understand argument. You can't just take one perspective, one point of view, one argument, and say that's all I'm going to look at because I found the right one. How do you know it's the right one? You could have pinpointed.
Oh, if you don't know if it's the right one, that's a different question. But there is one truth. I mean, this is actually the real the real influence of monotheism is the belief that there is one truth. And that is the foundation of science, is that there is something that's true that can be known out there.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like something you'd say before you set off on an experiment or anything of that sort.
Right. And experimentation, trying to understand what is true is good, and what science is about, which is what makes me so I was a poli-sci major undergrad. That was one of my majors.
You were a journalist and a poli-sci and somehow became a social worker and a rabbi.
I seriously believe social science is incredibly important, which is why I hate sociology as it exists in academia, because it's all lies.
Okay, tell me what you mean. Like, I do want to get to the bottom of this. Tell me what you mean when you say sociology is all lies.
What would happen if you decided you were going to do your PhD on the ways in which women are more likely to be neurotic than men?
I mean, so to answer that question, I think you would have to pose it as a question, right? I think, are women more neurotic than men.
Okay. And if you posed that question, what do you think would happen to you?
Okay, so you have to, before you even pose that question, you need to ask, what am I hoping to answer? Like, what does neuroticism mean? What am I hoping to answer? What are the consequences of this question and the answers? Right? Like, it's not like you can just think. Like, I mean, it's not interesting to say how or
It's not interesting.
well, okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess I would ask you to make the case for why is this an interesting question.
Oh, try asking the question in public. You will find out how interesting it is very quickly. Have you heard of James Damore?
I'm not familiar with every word right off the top of my. James Damore. Why? Tell me
James
more.
Damore was an autistic scientist working at Google who went to a training where he was asked to think deeply about why there are so few women engineers at Google. And the poor autistic man decided to actually investigate that scientifically.
Sure. What were his methods?
Oh, he looked into the literature, the poor guy. And he cited the literature, and in a memo he wrote, and he got fired because there was an outrage throughout Silicon Valley. Here, let me find.
I mean, I see where you're going with this, Jacob. I mean, I see what you're saying.
I am saying that it's that you are in a field which has been ideologically captured, and certain fields of inquiry are, which, I mean, there are things we know to be true, including the fact that vast majority of women will not be happy if they don't have children.
There's different ways to look at this, Jacob. First,
Yeah,
how are you measuring happiness? First of all,
oh, come on.
we haven't even agreed on how to measure happiness as a society.
Of course, you can always deconstruct facts that are uncomfortable.
More men want to have kids right now than women.
Oh, definitely. I think definitely even most men will not be happy, because when you look at, I mean, come on, when you look at evolution, how could you even doubt the fact that for the vast majority of people, like, reproducing, like, if you believe evolution is a thing, right?
I mean,
Like,
that's our biology wants to procreate. It's
yeah, right. But talking about biology is verboten now in the social sciences.
I don't know that that's the case. Well, first of all, psychology is about the biology of the brain. You're laughing, man. You're laughing.
I am laughing, Clara, because it's obviously the case. It's obviously the case.
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you.
You are in a milieu where there is a fascist insistence that certain things must be true, including there are no neurological differences between men and women, including that that the fact women have hormonal cycles cannot in any way.
Men have hormonal cycles too, Jacob. Everybody has a hormonal cycle. That's biology.
Women have a different hormonal cycle than men. That's no. So Marcus is coming to your defense.
I mean, I go to Notre Dame, Jacob. I just don't think you understand. It's
Oh,
five.
it doesn't matter which.
Have you seen my YouTube video on my channel? I really lay out what's happened at Notre Dame.
So Marcus is involved in academia. He says the right-wing fear of academia is much overblown. I don't think it's overblown at all. I think that I think the work of Jonathan Haidt is not a right-winger. Heterodox Academy, like it's absolutely clear that academia has been corrupted down to its core.
We read Jonathan Haidt's work. We read The Righteous Mind. We consider those things. It's not like we just sort of hear, like, it's not like we're sitting in sociology offices saying, oh, all of these critiques are totally overblown and we never pay any attention to them. We talk about the body. We talk about, I mean,
I don't see any serious attempt to undo the biases. The fact that anybody who shows up to any campus, including, I would say, probably Notre Dame. I haven't been to Notre Dame, but I'm guessing it's the same. Who shows up on campus with a MAGA hat? Could you show up to campus with a MAGA hat?
Absolutely, I could.
Absolutely.
I would say three of the Supreme Court justices, the supermajority, have visited Notre Dame in very recent years. Our president was at the Rose Garden. I would say that a conservative approach, like our campus, half the campus goes and marches for life every year. Like, I don't think anybody, like, I have seen MAGA hats on campus.
You have seen MAGA hats on campus of Notre Dame?
Yeah.
That is shocking to me.
It's really a place where people of all walks of life are welcome, I'd say. If anything, if you're a liberal, you're kind of in some places.
I find that completely incredible. I went to USC because because I thought of myself as a Republican, I went to USC. And I didn't go to Berkeley. Because I figured, Berkeley's left wing and USC's, and my basic what I experienced at USC was there were certainly conservatives there, but they knew to shut up.
Yeah, I don't think that does anybody any good. Do you?
Oh no, I honestly, I think academia has to be burnt to the ground. Okay. I think the higher education system as it exists is irredeemable.
Okay. Yeah. No, I hear you, and I've heard lots of people say similar things, and I mean, I would be really curious, like, what comes next? What comes after?
Well, that's kind of the hope of Peterson Academy, and I think this, whatever this is on YouTube, is the future of the academy.
Okay. Well, how does that work? Like,
wow, somebody decided to give you some money. Well, me some money. Hi, Clara. Thanks for doing this. Do you think Jacob might be onto something when questioning sociology misses the nuances of how relationships are possible without words, but a dance in a cooperation? Not exactly sure what he's asking.
I think he's asking about like 4D cognition, and maybe Vervaeke talks about some of this stuff, relationships without words. So, like, you've been talking about extended cognition some on your channel, and even in this conversation, how our brains exist beyond our bodies, and how our cognition happens, as we're interacting with each other, not just online, but when we are face to face, and we have all of this body stuff going on. And that's one of my questions too: is that kind of happening online? Are we able to get that kind of extended cognition?
Well, there's definitely a reason I have been more and more involved in video chat. I mean,
yeah,
I used to engage mostly in discussions through writing because I'm just so much more comfortable and capable in written word.
Yeah.
But I discovered the communication just isn't there in writing.
What do you mean?
Um, there just is not the same level of communication when you, um, especially, I mean, part of it is actually when you're writing back and forth, people quickly, including myself, scan what the other person writes and is composing what they're writing, right? Whereas if I'm talking and you raise an eyebrow, I start, oh, hold on, I need to explain more, and you frown or you nod. The the capacity to actually communicate and get to know each other is completely different and vastly better.
Yeah. There's something I wonder about though is like when you're online talking to someone, like, is there shit that gets in the way? Like people get triggered sometimes. Is that like a thing? Like more with face to face, you think, or not? Or like more with like this kind of interaction that we're having now?
Well, if somebody is getting triggered, um, I want to know, and I want to be able to react to that. Like if I write a really long thing and they've gotten triggered halfway through, like there's a disconnect there, right?
Hmm.
Um, and if when we're talking, I say something and the person, oh, hold on here, then that's actually useful in communication.
Okay, well, compare that to like actual like in person, face to face. Are you getting something more there, or is it like overwhelming? Like, like
Oh, no. So this is one of the things that I've definitely become, especially through the counseling work.
yeah,
Like,
I'm interested too because you do have this experience.
yeah, no, there is no comparison to in-face counseling, and I think telecounseling just fails in so many ways. It's necessary. Um, I think it's good that it's possible and available, but it is definitely far less effective than in-person counseling. Yeah.
Okay, there is like actually a faculty member at Notre Dame who does study this in the sociology department. Like this, I mean, I don't know where he's going with this now, but um, so I have actually no idea what any of his theories are except a little bit. But so it's interesting to hear you say that with your background. And the point I was going to make is, oh no, I was going to pull at this thread because it is interesting because like stuff like your heartbeats sync up and stuff like that. Like I've heard and like, do you feel it? Like, how do you feel different? Like if you're, I don't know if you give people counseling right now. Is that part of your career? Like, are you on the,
I do some, yeah. Yeah.
okay, so if you're the counselor, I'm wondering, do you notice, like, what differences do you notice in person versus have you done this? I mean, you know enough online.
Actually, almost pretty much all of the counseling I've done a little bit of in-person counseling. It's been mostly online, which is unfortunate, but it's it's easier for people, and um, that's what that's the stuff that I've been doing in my master's degree work is online stuff mostly.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is different. Yeah, it is. I mean, just the fact is, just especially when somebody starts crying, just like being able to lean in, you know, um, or even to hold their hand. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. What's going on? Like, okay, so someone's crying, and then you, as a counselor, What's your vibe?
Depends why they're crying, depends who they are. I mean, uh, both of my internships so far have been at domestic violence shelters. So being a male counseling battered women, you have to be very, very careful about. Especially, I'm a pretty big guy, so it's it's. I mean, you have to read body language, and you have to have awareness, and yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I don't know what to tell you. It's not something that's easily described. Yeah. Yeah, both my internships were working with battered women.
Did you choose that, or did that choose you?
No, that's what's. I mean, especially in Los Angeles, that's where a lot of the funding is, and I think especially the people who are trying to get interns very much want male interns. We're in very short supply in the mental health field.
They want male interns to work at domestic violence shelters?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Um, these women have very, especially at the shelters, have very few interactions with men, and one of the biggest things they need is being able to have a normal relationship with a man.
Mm.
Just being able to talk to men. That's incredibly important. Yeah, both of the places where I had internships, the person who was recruiting told me they specifically pulled me out of the thing because they wanted more males.
Mm.
Yeah, males are in very short supply in the mental health field.
Okay. This does kind of bring it back around a little bit to something I did want to ask you about a little bit more, which is your nonprofit and how you were talking about specifically using use it like looking out for people in your own community with the nonprofit. And I do think that's really interesting how you all started a nonprofit online with folks you met online. Is that so? Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about that. About
Well, I mean, I've met pretty much everybody who's involved in real life, so it's not just online. Yeah, I mean, it is an online community, but I'm just trying to think. I mean, ultimately, the services are probably going to have to be physically in Los Angeles or at least California. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like I've kept you for 3 hours here answering all my questions, so I should probably let you go, Jacob. We've been here a while.
Okay.
I really appreciate.
Sure. I mean, if you have questions, you can always ask more. You can always jump onto my Just Chatting streams.
I'm gonna hop right onto your Just Chatting. You're West Queso, so
and I usually do them pretty late. Yeah.
So no, but this has been really cool, and I'll DM you and ask. Oh wait, no, you told me to send your thing to the
to the charity, yeah, Fountain of Comfort. Yeah.
Already asked about that. Okay, awesome. Jacob, I wish you a very good evening, and thank you so much. And if you ever have questions for me, give me a nice heads up so I got a lot of time to research. And no, Okay, signing off. Have a good night. Enjoy
Okay.
your dogs. Tell your dog.
I'll end up with this.
Right.
I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
You
Sorry,
are
Reverend. Thank
correct.
you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes
There's a
that devil's
proverb.
advocate thing too
Isn't there a
far.
proverb that says something like, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly."
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is.
Exactly right. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank
It was
you,
good
Reverend.
to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The